Good evening, everyone. This is James Fraher from Chillicothe, Illinois, host of World Events. And the other day, I had the opportunity on Saturday to go to Gun Save Life meeting in Utica, Illinois. And not only did they talk about gun rights and issues going on and things in the courts, but Melissa Peterson was there also. And she started her talk about her son that was groomed by a school teacher in Morris, Illinois, and where that's standing at. And she has been institutional, uh, I mean, involved with getting grooming laws established in Illinois and working with the other states and doing the same thing. And then on top of that, as you can see, it's on the flyer here, it says defendlasalle.com. What that is, there is a place up there. It was called Fox River Resort in Sheridan, Illinois, off of I-80, north Ottawa, Illinois, roughly. And there was a Muslim group that was trying to buy it. And the citizens in and around the area stood up, and so far they have had that on pause or stopped. And she's going to tell you a lot about that. And then you hear from another couple other speakers. They also talk about election fraud. And so without any further delay, I'm going to go ahead and let this run. And like I said, it was Gun Save Life in Utica, Illinois.
For which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, all you vets, keep standing. Keep standing, vets. Okay, let's give a hand to all these guys. I learned that only 2% are vets in this room, and we got that percentage beat big time. That's really nice. And knowing the people coming from all around, we usually have roughly 100-mile radius, but tonight I know we've got that beat, and I could count it out, but I don't want to take the time because we got some really important guests going to have a lot to tell you. And so, without any further ado, I'd like to ask the all-knowing, all-seeing, here's Johnny.
Thank you, Glenn. All right, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming out on this glorious Thursday evening. The weather's beautiful, life is good. Let's start with litigation. There's a bunch of it. We will be appealing the flawed Seventh Circuit Court of Appeal ruling against the us challenging the peak gun and magazine ban. We're going to be appealing that to the U.S. Supreme Court. Details are up on the website if you want the legalese on it. Put that in your pipe and smoke it there, Kwame. I think we finished up our amici briefs for the Monty's case. It's coming up the Supreme Court in this next fall term. Both sides know the Supreme Court's going to rule in our favor on these gun bans and magazine bans. The question is it going to be a narrow decision, and all the people on the gun-hating left want to make it a narrow decision, or will be a broad decision that affects or limits the government's limitations or regulations on these guns? Specifically, what am I talking about? Well, in Colorado, as of the 1st of August, you need a 12-hour class to buy an AR-15. You need to pass a written test. You need to pay money to the county in the state of Colorado. You need to get registered, whole 9 yards, just to buy an AR-15. So I think that would be coming to Illinois if we got a narrow decision, and if we get a broad decision, hopefully that'll put the beat six on that. Why the amici briefs that we're pushing so hard? Well, the plaintiffs, the two major plaintiffs in the case that the Supreme Court's accepted, they're limited in their briefs to, I don't know how many pages it is, but it's a limited number of pages, and they can't cover all the issues. So we file these amici briefs to support their case, by taking on certain issues. One group is working on magazines, another one's working on shotguns that are banned, another one's rifles that are banned, another one's handguns banned. We're working on parts and right to repair. That's one of the areas that we're covering. So everybody's got their own little slice of the pie that we're throwing in, and to help the Supreme Court make it a broad decision, recognizing the rights of everybody to have these particular items. And this is frankly for all the marbles, because this is going to decide what governments can regulate when it comes to arms. So we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, we're going to lean on the language from the Wolford decision from late June, early July. I guess it was late June when it came out. Basically, in a nutshell, the case, or that case says it's the government's burden to prove that any law is analogous to the colonial times if it impedes the Second Amendment's definition. Shall not be infringed. Pretty much means all the laws. And there were precious little gun control back in the 1790s, folks. And even in the dissent, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, she noted with great upsetness that there are effectively no gun control laws from the colonial era that can be used as analogs to modern day gun control. And because of that, she's sweating bullets about that, pun intended. We're just smiling and grinning, so what can you say? Wolford, that case, I think, is going to make a big difference for a lot of things that we have today. I think the bans on open carry are going to be a thing in the past in the next 3 to 5 years. Same thing for the FOID card. How many states, does anybody show of hands, how many states had a FOID card in 1791? Exactly. And turning down another appeal, the Supreme Court greenlighted 18 to 20-year-olds to have carry licenses, either by constitutional carry or by states that have regulatory schemes like Illinois. So yes, I think there's going to be a lot of changes coming in the next 3 to 5 years. All in our favor. There's a lot to be really excited about. Third Circuit Court of Appeals struck down New Jersey's gun and magazine ban, creating a circuit conflict, which will be addressed by Edgar Montes. That's not really the news. The news is all the people in New Jersey who suddenly found all these guns that washed up on the rivers, streams, and lakes in that state. It's like manna from heaven. It's a miracle. All these guns just magically appeared. All these magazines started popping out of these lakes and streams. It's just the strangest thing you ever saw. A Texas judge ruled that suppressors and short barrel rifles, that registration component of the National Firearms Act is unconstitutional for members of certain organizations. I don't remember what they all are. It's on the website if you want to look them up. It's also in Gun News, it's current issue. If you're a member of one of those organizations, I think the Second Amendment Foundation might be one of them, but if you're a member of one of those, or if you go to one of those retailers that was part of this lawsuit, Palmetto State Armory is the one I do remember, you can buy a suppressor or short barrel rifle, you get a background check, no registration, no tax, no nothing, you just buy it and walk out, even if you're not a resident of South Carolina. No, you can't have all that fun stuff in Illinois, but if you move out of Illinois, you can certainly have it. And I think in a few years we'll have it in Illinois by court decree, whether or not the legislature wants it or not. So there you go. Chicago, I've got an update in Chicago. I did some research on the mayor's trans-femicide state of emergency. Yes, Mayor Moron announced on Father's Day that they're having a trans-femicide state of emergency in Chicago for all the transgendered women going out there in Chicago's gang-infested streets and getting killed. Turns out in 6.5 years, there have been 4 of these instances. 4. 2 of those were men pretending to be women who got some very unhappy customers, thought that they were hiring the services of a woman, and they found that there was a little something extra there, and they were upset and killed the prostitute in a fit of rage. So we're talking 4 people in 6+ years. That's a state of emergency for Mayor Moron. The 3,316 black folks killed in that time frame, that's just the other day ending in Y. They don't count for crap. 771 Latinos, same thing. That's not a state of emergency. That's just, sorry, Chicago's mean streets. So what are they doing in Chicago? Boy, they're putting up new signs in the Chicago Transit Authority where crime is out of control. The signs say, when is it? Violence will not be tolerated on the CTA properties, something to that effect. But two problems with that sign. Yeah, it says violence on the CTA will not be tolerated. In big capital letters on not. Couple of big problems. One, the gangbangers can't read. You giggle. 24 schools in Chicago. Not a single student can read or do math at grade level. Not one. One of those students pays $90,000 a student to educate them, and not a one can read or do math. The second thing, everybody knows it's crime without consequence. When 94% of non-fatal shootings don't result in an arrest, rob, do whatever you want. You're not going to get caught. Everybody knows it. Elsewhere in America, where crime has consequences, they don't have, or don't treat gun ownership as a plague, and they don't have Chicago-style violent crime. The entire state of Florida has recorded roughly 225 homicides so far this year. Chicago's at over 260. Chicago, by itself. Miami, Orlando, Tampa, all three of them combined have only had 29 homicides this year. Chicago's had 260. Guess which one has lots of gun bans, highly restrictive environment on gun ownership, soft on crime, no cash bail, soft on crime prosecutors who don't prosecute, and which one is hard on crime? But I got good news for all of us here in Illinois when it comes to guns and post offices. The judge's ruling grants protected status nationwide for SAF, Second Amendment Foundation, and Firearms Policy Coalition members as a bona fide defense from criminal prosecution for possession of firearms of U.S. postal property. It felt good today to walk into the post office in Pontiac wearing my Glock and not having to worry about getting arrested. Yay is right. If you're a member of SAF or the Firearms Policy Coalition, you can carry in standalone post offices all day long and twice on Sunday, and there's not a damn thing they can do about it. That's the law in America today. Now, it doesn't apply to military-based post offices. It doesn't apply to post offices in federal buildings that have other federal offices, just the standalone post offices that are the bulk of them. By the way, you're thinking to yourself, how do I get on that train? $25 gets you a member of an SAF, $10 for a Firearms Policy Coalition. That's cheap insurance against getting pinched at the post office. What else? 4 years ago, the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office claimed that opening the floodgates to millions of New Yorkers to carry a concealed weapon is a nightmare of public safety. Today is a couple weeks ago, today the same post office sent out a press release saying that Brooklyn records the lowest number of homicides in a month and the longest murder-free stretch in the month of July in Brooklyn's history. They didn't mention that 4 years ago Bruin opened up concealed carry to little people like us. Of course not. But driving that crime down, that violence down, didn't just happen by a miracle. So yes, crime, consequences, all that stuff, yes. So you may have questions, comments, obscene gestures, emotional outbursts. All right, one last thing. I got a call last Monday. A young woman that sounded scared, and she said, I had a really bad weekend. And I said, well, I've got plenty of those lately. And she's like, I shot somebody in my living room on Saturday night. I'm like, ooh. She says, the prosecutor wants me to come in and answer questions and make a statement, and I don't know what to do. I said, okay, you're not going to go answer any questions or make a statement without an attorney? And she says, I'm a mother of 6, a single mother of 6, and I don't have money for an attorney. I said, I'm hearing what you're saying. Email the state's attorney back and say, look, I'd love to make a statement, but I can't afford the attorney. Well, anyway, back and forth, we went, and I knew the answer to this question. I said, they take your gun? Yep. You want another one? She was stunned on the phone. And I said, you send me your FOIA card, I'll run it to the state police. If they approve the transfer, you can come pick it up. We did. It was approved. She got it last Thursday at the 73rd hour after the agreement to transfer the gun was made. See, her kids, her oldest is 14, 13, something like that. She's got 6 kids. Her kids were being bullied by some neighborhood group, and they were taunting her kids out front, so she herded her kids into the house, and before they could close the door, 3 of the aggressors stormed through her door, forced entry on the door. There were one, the 15-year-old ringleader, who, by the way, is on probation, had a big-ass butcher knife in his hand, and he ran over to her oldest son and tried to stab him several times, lunging at him and stabbing at him. And she pulled out her gun. She said, you need to stop that and get the hell out of this house, or I'm going to shoot you. And he proceeded to lunge again, and she shot him. I said, how many times did you shoot him? She said, 1. And I said, no, it's the paperwork, we're shooting him twice. She probably saved his life by applying pressure to the wound to stop the bleeding. Police came in, they took over her pressure application, and the second officer came in, and she told them that she shot the guy, and they put her in cuffs, took her downtown, and let her sit in an interrogation room for 4 hours. She refused to answer questions. She had been through a concealed carry class, and she listened to a lecture where they said, don't answer questions without your attorney being present. And 4 hours later, they cut her loose because it was a pretty clear-cut case. I mean, somebody comes into your house with a butcher knife trying to stab your kid, shoot their ass repeatedly, vigorously. And turns out, in addition to the 3, the 40-year-old mother of at least one of them came charging into her house as well. I said, man, there have been a lot of dead people if that was my house. And anyway, she's got a gun now, and I was glad to do it. It was one of the guns that occasionally I win one at GSL meetings, so I put my 20 bucks in on the gun draws, and she got a nice new gun out of the deal and some ammunition and a holster for it, and she got peace of mind now, and I got peace of mind. I'm happy for her, and told her to get herself some legal insurance, because she may need it. They're already looking for her, stalking her, trying to figure out where she's at because she's not staying in her house, and they're threatening to kill her and all this kind of stuff. So, if anybody needed a gun, that was her, and happy to help her get it taken care of. So, yeah, that's my life. So, with that, I'll let you all have a good night. Enjoy the show tonight. It should be a good one.
Thank you, John. Did you ever think or ask yourself, wow, things are really, really screwed up. What can I do? And I know a couple of ladies where I don't think they ever thought that. They just started jumping in and doing. And they're very busy, very busy. And I wanted them to come to a meeting, but I figured they'd say, yeah, it wouldn't hurt to ask. So I asked called Michelle Peterson, and she said, yes. Wow, this is going to be great. And then she says, can I bring Molly? Wow, this is like Superman asking if you can bring Batman. Yeah. When you're done hearing what they have to say, you're gonna, how can I help? I want to join. Matter of fact, that's what I said, and matter of fact, that's how I got this shirt. Okay, they made me dress up when I come to an event. Okay, and okay, I'll do what I'm told, and I'm happy to do what I'm told. When these ladies can hold 2 lanterns in the church tower and 350 people show up at a county board meeting, they're not messing around. Michelle, please come up. A big hand for Michelle Peterson. Oh, you're going to like what she had to say.
moves way better than I do. I told her that I wanted to be Superman though, so I could fly. She could be Batman. So, first of all, I want to say thanks for having us out here. And part of, many of you know my story with my son and the whole grooming incident that happened over at Morris High School. And that's sort of how I've gotten started with all of this. But to kind of bring you up to speed on that a little bit, so we tried to get an amendment to the current grooming law, which will be known as Andrew's Law, and it sat in committee for 2 years and never called for a vote. And they were actually told from a friend of mine, they were told to never call it for a vote. And so now I'm wondering why, but I do think I know why. Really, you see some of the stuff coming out with the Epstein files, and Tom Pritzker, who is J.B. Pritzker's cousin, who actually owns Hyatt Hotels, he was in Jeffrey Epstein's black book under 13 different phone numbers on page 45, and then his son was on page 44 under 13 different phone numbers. So you're not going to put a law in place that might actually put you or your family in prison. So just speculation, of course. I can't prove any of that, but that's kind of where I'm thinking, that there might be people involved at the highest levels that don't want these types of laws put in place. So what we're going to do this year is amend it again and put it back in. So it has to sit in committee for 2 years, is my understanding, and then once it doesn't go through, you can pull it back and then you can amend it again. So that's what we're going to do. But the biggest part of that bill is to expand the sex offender registry for anybody who is convicted of grooming, that they would be a lifelong registrant on the sex offender registry. Right now it's only 10 years. So the teacher that did this to my son, he's no longer in the registry as of 3 years ago. And we know that these folks cannot be reformed. It's been proven, so they should actually be on the registry for life. So that's one of the things we're going to put on there. The other thing is to expand the places of businesses that are privately owned, that would be also on the sex offender registry. So when 2 years after our conviction, I saw this guy working at the mall in Joliet, and he was working at a uniform shop. So I went in to get a new lab coat for work, and I started to walk in and saw he was working the register, and I completely did a 180 and walked back out, and my heart was racing, and all this PTSD going on. And so I sat there and watched him for a while, and he was leaning on the counter, looking out into the mall, and there's one of those little children's play areas right there, and he was only 60 feet from that. He's on the sex offender registry. I'm like, how is this even possible? But because that place is privately owned, it's not included on the sex offender registry, mostly because those places didn't exist when the registry was, when that law was written. So that will be part of this, that places that cater all or in part to children would be included on the registry. So places like Chuck E. Cheese, Dave & Buster's, libraries, movie theaters, those sorts of things would be included on the registry. So that's part of this bill. And then we're going to hopefully make it so it goes from a Class D to a Class C felony, so there'll be at least a minimum of 5 years in prison for these guys. That teacher that did this to my son did 30 days in jail. So not enough time as far as I'm concerned. But based on that work and the stuff that I'm doing, when this whole enclave started coming into the Fox River area and to the resort, and it's only 5 minutes from my church, I was starting to pay attention, trying to figure out what was going on. And we started showing up at little township meetings, and went to a township meeting in Mission Township, and their township supervisor was completely ignorant and rude to the people that were there. There were probably 70 people that showed up that night, and it's in like a little, I don't know if you built a pole barn kind of a thing, right? And there's like 5 people there on the board, and she was being so rude to the constituents, and I'm like, what is happening here? Like, she should be like against this as well, right? Like, we're going to bring 2,000 people into this area of 89 people in Norway, and it'll completely destroy their infrastructure. So that's really where we were coming from, was the infrastructure side of this initially, and really kind of trying to use the law against them and using the Constitution, that if they were to bring in Sharia law, it's completely antithetical to our Constitution. So that's where we were coming from, and she started off the meeting kind of being belligerent with everybody, telling them that they'd only have 30 minutes to speak. And so I'm just thinking, like, why is this even happening? She probably never in her life probably had more than 4 people at a meeting at any one time. She had 70 people there probably that night. So people were upset, and they wanted her to write a letter from Mission Township on behalf of the constituents, to the LaSalle County Board just to tell them that they were concerned that there were going to be this many people coming into their area at one time, and we're concerned about the roads. For those of you who've been out there, there's one road that goes around the whole property, and in the winter, the backside of that road is just gravel. So in the winter, that road isn't even passable sometimes, and they have to just use the one road going in and out. So if there was ever an emergency, it'd be really difficult to get not only those people out, but the people that are already living there. So that was one of the concerns. Also, just the roads themselves, like the wear and tear on the roads, if you had that many people going in and out of there, they'd probably have to put some stoplights in and increase the police force, the fire, all of the emergency systems. So that was a major concern of the constituents. She wanted them to write a letter that they were concerned about that in their area. Nothing to do with Islam, nothing to do with anything else. And she refused to write that letter for her constituents. She said she talked to the attorney, but 2 meetings later, she still hadn't written that letter and said that they weren't going to write that letter because they didn't want to come off as, Islamophobic or anything against religion. I said, that's not what we asked you to do. We asked you to write a letter based on the number of people coming in there. And so that's really where we were coming from. And got to the end of that meeting, and she said that they were only going to do 30 minutes of public comment, and another person raised their hand, and she shut them down and wouldn't let them talk. And so I asked her, I said, can you show me in your meeting minutes where you actually voted on this as one of your policies, that you're only going to do 30 minutes for public comment? And she said, well, you can FOIA that. I said, well, according to the Open Meetings Act, you actually have to show me that if you have that in policy, and you can't vote on that tonight either. It has to be on the agenda prior to the meeting. And so by saying those things and, letting her know that she was violating the Open Meetings Act and she wasn't allowing these people to speak, then that's kind of how I got involved and pulled into all of this. So, and it's been probably one of the best groups I think I've ever worked with. Lots of people doing a lot of really good work. Just to tell you though, I originally from Mission Township in that area in Sheridan. So we got someone over here, so another one over there. But you guys need to show up at these meetings every month. The last 2 months, she refused to do the Pledge of Allegiance. And so the first meeting where she refused to do that, I stood up and started the Pledge of Allegiance anyway. So everyone else stood up and did the Pledge of Allegiance, but she sat the entire time. And then the next meeting, she didn't put on the agenda again. Somebody else started the Pledge of Allegiance. We all stood and did the Pledge of Allegiance. And she and the attorney both sat there the entire time and never stood, which I think is just completely shameful. And while she doesn't have to put it on the agenda, it doesn't have to be part of the meeting, I just believe here, especially the stuff that we're talking about with her in the United States of America, that should be the way she opens the meeting, and she would not even stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. So that lady needs to be unseated. So anybody in Mission Township needs to run and get her out of there. But anyway, that's how we kind of got to this point, and it's just really a grassroots effort. After that Thursday meeting, I said we could hold a meeting on Sunday, and thinking that we'd maybe have, 50, 60 people there. There were about 120 people that showed up that day, and we were completely overwhelmed. I was grateful that I had an agenda together and had something together to give to people, and we created even just kind of a mission statement for our group, and I had committees kind of broken out. Those committees have kind of morphed a little bit because we're overlapping on people, but we were trying to make it so that we didn't have 120 people writing Freedom of Information Act to LaSalle County, right, for various reasons. We didn't want to overwhelm them, plus it's just a waste of time for us. So we had these committees set up where we had people doing FOIAs, we had people looking into zoning, we had people looking into the infrastructure and municipalities, we had people looking into taxes and how that would affect us. So what happened, for those of you who aren't aware, there was a company that came into the area, into Sheridan and into Norway specifically, and it's a company called VAIRT, V-A-I-R-T, and they were wanting to buy the Fox River Resort, which was formerly the Holiday Inn Resort, which was also part of Silverleaf. So Silverleaf or Holiday Inn or IHG. And we found out that they actually got this property in an auction back in 2024, and so what happened was they were doing an open house. Once we all got information that these folks were doing an open house, we're like, what the heck is happening? And so we started really on Facebook kind of connecting with each other and throwing it out there that they were having this open house, so a bunch of us were going to attend. And I think once Holiday Inn got word from some of the people that are now part of this meeting, of this group that we're with, which is now called Defend LaSalle, Holiday Inn reached out to Barrett and shut them down, told them they couldn't do an open house for a property they didn't currently own. So we found out that they don't own the property yet. Hasn't been deeded to them. Nothing has been rezoned yet. And then we also found out that when it was zoned initially, it was zoned agricultural. And so if these people go back to try to buy it now, Holiday Inn was kind of grandfathered into a commercial zoning. And if these folks go back and buy it now, they would have to go all the way back to the commercial or to the agricultural zoning and really kind of start going forward from there. And we all started emailing the LaSalle County Board and the zoning commissioner and really trying to figure out what is happening and trying to bring us all of ourselves up to speed. The other thing is too, if they were able to come into this property, they were going to make there's like a recreation center there, they were going to make that their mosque. So they had everything kind of planned out and laid out how they were going to do everything. But if that property became a religious compound or even just the mosque itself, the land around the mosque, that would be tax exempt, right? And so they would lose a good portion in Sheridan of their taxes for their funding for the municipalities. So that would increase everybody's taxes in that area. So that was a big thing for everyone. And again, not really saying anything about Muslims or Islam or any of that stuff. It was more about bringing that many people in here. Now, again, overarching over this entire theme, we have God kind of watching out for us. And so we call on God to really kind of clear the way and clear them out of there, which is how Molly then came up with the One Nation Under God theme. You want to talk about that a little bit? Molly loves this, by the way. So, yeah.
I have tons of stuff to say, but it doesn't always come out the right way. Usually I write stuff down. So this whole thing, to me, it looks like a real opportunity. And I know, I'm not going to tell you that the world isn't the worst I've ever seen it, because it's bad. We've got Islamification, we've got communism, we've got Marxism, we've got people who don't even know what gender they are, we've got child sacrifice, and it looks really, really bad, but I want you guys to know that I know that we're going to win this. I know that America is going to be saved. And so, when we were trying to figure out, and we are, as a nation and as a group right now, we're kind of all together trying to figure out how we're going to handle this, how we're going to talk about this. And we're sort of drifting toward Islam is a social and political ideology. And we want to stay away from the religion because that makes it a little bit cleaner. It also takes care of some of our First Amendment issues that are brought up when Islam becomes a religion. But Islam is a religion. And Christianity also is a religion that has its own social and political ideology, and we're living right in the middle of that social and political ideology, and I think that we're forgetting that, and I think it's really, really dangerous if we forget that. So to have Allah come back on the scene, I think it's going to be advantageous for us in the long run, and I'll tell you about that in a second. We're seeing our liberties and our culture degrade. And I don't think anyone would argue with that. And I think the reason that that is happening is because we're forgetting the one God under which our nation was established. And so that's the basis of those signs, and that's going to be the basis of our victory. And I know there's probably a lot of you who already know that, but there's a big chunk of the population who hasn't heard that yet. So we have to get that message out to them, and this is our opportunity to do that. God's letting this happen in our nation. This conflict is going to bring us victory if we just look at it that way. And don't get angry, and don't be running for your guns. Run for your Bible and open it up and read it to somebody, because that's how we're going to win this. So I know there's a lot of really, really smart people, politicians who are coming up with all kinds of amazing strategies. These guys are smarter than me. They've been doing this for longer than me. But I know someone who's smarter than all of them combined and has been doing it longer than all of them combined. And he says in James 4, submit yourselves then to me, resist the devil, Allah, and the devil will flee. And then he says in Psalm 81, you shall have no foreign God among you. If my people would only listen to me, if you would only follow my ways, how quickly I would subdue your enemies and turn my hand against your foes. These are our foes. They're inside the gate. There's not much we can do about it now unless we want to go into a full-blown war. This is the strategy that's going to win this for us. God says in 2 Chronicles 7:14, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and I will forgive their sin and I will heal their land. And we're already well underway here with this. On May 17th, this nation was rededicated to the Lord from Washington, D.C. That's going to have a huge impact. That's going to give us victory. That's going to bring us into the fulfillment of all of our founding covenants for the gospel of the kingdom to spread in this land and out to the other nations from this land. That stuff's going to happen. But now what we're working on is, what about your township? What about your county? What about maybe you and the people on your cul-de-sac, or you and the farmer whose land touches yours? Are you going to be a part of that? And we need to stand not necessarily armed, not necessarily angry. We need to stand knowing the victory that we already have. The Declaration of Independence, and I can't even believe I'm saying this because I didn't care about the Declaration of Independence at all 10 years ago. But it is one of the greatest documents that has ever been written in the history of mankind. And it's ours. It belongs to us. And it lays out that our rights come from God, and that the people give the government the authority that they believe they should have to preserve those rights. That's our system. It belongs to us. We need to stand up and reclaim that. What's the other good document? No, it's a good one. It's a good one. Oh, hello, the New Covenant. The New Covenant, and we've got 235 million Christians in America who have rights to the promises laid out in this New Covenant. We have to start to stand and say, this is one nation under God, and that God is Jesus Christ, and that God, Jesus Christ, has already defeated Allah 2,000 years ago. So that is the victory that we need to be able to stand in. I'm probably going too long. Okay. So I think, there's tons of strategies, and we're employing them. I'm writing emails, we're writing resolutions, we're passing proclamations, which we have a great proclamation that's going to kind of restore the foundations of our government. All of this stuff is really important, and we have to do it all. But if we do all of it without repentance, without asking God what our next step is, we're not going to be successful in it. And we've been struggling for years and years and years. September 11th was another one of these opportunities where we could have repented, and we did for like 10 minutes, and we were all weepy and sad, and oh God, help us. And then we just went back to doing whatever we wanted to do. And if we had repented then, we wouldn't be in the situation that we're in now. We would not have had Obama. And you can say, oh, that's voter fraud. And it is voter fraud. I know it's voter fraud. But we wouldn't have voter fraud because the God who watches over our election system is the same God who appoints kings and who is the same God who protects us from these foreign gods that are invading our land. And he's kind of taken his hands off because he needs us to understand where we're going to be headed as a nation if we keep rejecting him, if we keep turning our back on him. So, one of the things that we're doing, that we all have to do this, we all have to be talking to our friends, we all have to be talking to our boards, because we've got people on those boards who are called into government. God has called them there. They're doing a horrible job. They don't know our founding documents. They don't know the God under which our nation was founded, but that is their calling, and we can teach them. And we don't want to throw out everybody. Some of them need to go, like this lady in mission. She needs to go. But we can teach some of these people, and they can be good public servants as soon as they understand that that's what they're there for, and that that's how our government works. So we want to do that. And one of the ways that we're doing that is a proclamation that we have. It's called the Proclamation of Gratitude to Almighty God and Recurrence to Fundamental Principles. It's long, but it's good. And if you go to defendlasalle.com, it's on there. And there's a huge memorandum. It has to be big, it has to be long, because we're so far away from where we used to be that we need a lot of teaching, a lot of explanation to say, hey, these things that are in this proclamation, they're quotes from our founding documents, they're quotes from our founding fathers. It's not unconstitutional to proclaim these things again. So there's a huge memorandum that goes through step by step.
How close are you think, to blocking this Fox Valley takeover by a foreign, apparently liar with Muslim tendencies? How do you think you're going to be able to stop that through one way or the other, or are they going to be able to muscle through?
So, yeah, so what Molly is talking about though is kind of what is overseeing everything we're doing, right? So with the stuff that we've done with these different committees, they have gotten us a lot of information. So one of the things that we actually found is in their, did any of you see their original flyers that they put out? They took these down as soon as we started highlighting them, but because of COVID, we start screenshotting everything now because we know that people start taking things down when we start calling them out. So these are some of their original flyers. In this flyer here, it talks about having a faith-based community, and it talks about putting a mosque up, and it talks about fractional shares, and it talks about halal financing. Do you guys know what halal is? So halal means that it follows Sharia law, right? So they never say Sharia law, and they're always like, we never said Sharia law, but it's semantics. If you don't know what their words mean, then you don't know what you're fighting. So when they say halal financing, that's financing within their own system, and it's going to be tax-free for them. So they finance their investors, and it's tax-free. So my question was, if I want to buy this too, because you can't be racist against me either, if I want to buy that, can I also get halal financing and it's tax-free, right? So that's a violation of our laws, so they can't do that. So also trying to sell fractional shares of something you don't own is an SEC violation. So we also got a hold of Holiday Inn, let them know that they were doing this. Holiday Inn then filed a lawsuit against them for breach of contract, and it's now sitting in the federal courts up in Rockford. And they went to court Tuesday, and they have another court date set for, ironically, September 11th. And they have to, at that point, they're either going to go to trial, or I think what they have to do is actually find out or prove that this is actually what was happening. So they're going to be hammering that out on that day. But we did file an SEC violation in Illinois. So Molly and her husband Mike over there, they put together a filing for the SEC, which is ginormous and a lot of work. It took her about 16 hours to put it together. And when she filed it with Illinois, she got a response back maybe a week later or so, 10 days later.
Yeah,
right?
It was pretty soon.
It was soon after, and the guy sent back to her that we also had found another property that this guy owns. He was doing the same thing at the Pennsylvania property. So he said, you need to send this to the Pennsylvania SEC, and kind of bullet pointed what she needed to do, gave her the tools to actually do it and file it. So people they're reading it, number one, at the state level, and helping us out with another state. So we filed an SEC violation also in Pennsylvania and federally. So now we got them on an SEC violation. One of the other big things that we caught them on, we don't think that the guy that is the CEO of this, his name is Jamil Sakura. Anyway, that guy. So he's the CEO of this company. We don't think that he's a U.S. citizen. And so this could be a CFIUS violation, which means that somebody who is not a U.S. citizen cannot buy investment property within 25 miles of critical infrastructure. Critical infrastructure within 25 miles of the resort is the Marseilles Army, or the National Guard post, right? So it's an active duty. And then it's also within 25 miles of LaSalle nuclear plant with 2 nuclear reactors. So we sent that in to the DOJ. And about 3 weeks ago, I was invited to the Pentagon for an anti-trafficking meeting. And while I was there, I got introduced to another guy through a friend that was presenting that day. And I sat down next to him. We're just sitting there just making small talk before the meeting started. I said, so what do you do for a living? And he said, I work for the Department of Homeland Security. I said, really? I said, thank you, Jesus. And I said, can we have a talk after this? I want to get you some information. And I gave him all the information, and his eyes got super big. He said, get me everything you have, and I'll sift through it and get it to the right people at the Department of Homeland Security. He called me today and said that he is not sending that out anywhere. He's going to keep it in-house and get it to the right people, and he's close to getting everything together. He's putting his own report together on that, his own brief, I guess, to get to everybody. So I'm hopeful that that will also go to the Department of Homeland Security. And we found, so in answer to your question, I don't think they're gonna be able to go through with this for several reasons. But again, there's no reason that all of us came together but God, right? And that all those people come into our lives but God. So I do think, like Molly said, that that is the foundation of this entire thing. And if you don't believe, hopefully you will after this is all done, because we need to, the whole goal of this is to bring more people to the kingdom as well. Yes, sir. Well, that's funny. You should ask that. He asked if it would only be for Muslims or anybody else. So initially it was going to be a faith-based community only for Muslims. And when we started pushing back online, because we went on our Facebook page and started pounding their Facebook page, they said, oh no, anybody can buy in here. Christians are welcome. I said, well, can I bring my dog and my pig? Is that allowed? And that never got answered, honestly. So those are some things that, they'll lie to you. So they have something that's called taqiyya. And they can lie to you in the name of Allah. They just can't lie to other Muslims, right? So they will lie to you in the name of Allah. The other thing that really concerns me with all of this is Muhammad, their leader, back in 600 whatever, took a child bride who was 6 years old. Dad said that he could marry her, but so long as they didn't consummate the relationship until she was older. So he waited till she was 9. And so many of these folks will take on child brides. They have no problem with that. Many of them will molest boys also, because they think they're saving themselves for their wives by molesting boys. So, and they'll do this with their own community as well as others. So just know that that is a real thing, and that's the other thing that we need to stop with this. And then, I don't know if any of you pay attention in Great Britain, what's happening over there, and they're just running rampant over there. And about 4 or 5 weeks ago, there was a report that came out in Great Britain called the Gang Rape Report, and in that report was actually presented to Parliament. And it's stated in there, it's also called the Casey Report. So you can look up Casey Report or the Gang Rape Report. And it's a PDF that you can go online and get it. If you're on X, you just put that in there, the whole thing will pop up. And in that report, it states that 250,000 white women and girls over the last 50 years have been groomed and raped and trafficked in Great Britain. And the majority of them were Pakistani Muslims. And that's the group that's coming in over here, they're Pakistani Muslims. So you start connecting these dots, and that's why we need to get involved and push back. It's nice to come to these meetings to understand what's happening, but you can't come here just to be entertained. You have to get up and do something. You have to fight, you have to be vocal, you have to show up to these board meetings. It's exhausting when you have the same 5 or 10 people showing up all the time and everyone else starts dwindling away. At that first meeting in Mission, we had said 70 people there. At the next meeting, we had 15. And then when I let people know what was going on, how she reacted at that next meeting, and she sat through the Pledge of Allegiance, we then had about another 50 people show up at the next meeting. That entire town needs to show up at these meetings. Like, it's unbelievable the way she acts. And she got me really, really upset, and I was really not in a good space on that day.
It was really bad.
It was really bad. I threw out a word I probably shouldn't have said, and I was so annoyed with the entire thing. And then repented the whole way home and said, I'm sorry, God, I'll do better tomorrow. But I'm just so annoyed and tired of all these people who think that because they're in government that they run everything. And that's where we need to understand that we are the government. We run them, right? And if they aren't doing our bidding in our constitutional republic, we need to get them out. one of the biggest things people need to understand, you hear all the time in the news, democracy, democracy, democracy. Democracy means that 51% rules the other 49%. That's not what we have here. We have a constitutional republic whereby the people that we put in office do our bidding, and if they're not doing our bidding, we need to get them out. Which then brings us to the election fraud. Well, we know our elections are stolen. There's other things you can look into for that as well, but I also volunteer with another group called Unite for Freedom, and we're working on the election fraud. And we don't even call it election integrity because people have integrity, right? Elections are either valid or invalid, so we call it election validity. So just knowing your rights and that our most sacred civil right in this country is being taken away from us, and that's the right to vote and for free and fair elections, and we don't have that. Yes.
Yeah, so there is a resolution that has been written, and senior leadership at Defend LaSalle is looking over it, and I'm hoping by next week, maybe, that this would go out to, definitely to the members of Defend LaSalle, for them to look over it and see what they think, and then we'll go to the board, and then we'll go public with it all. So yeah, that is in the works, and it's a big document. It's also another opportunity to teach. So there's a lot of stuff in there, there's a lot of background, there's a huge memorandum that goes with it, so I think that's gonna be a great opportunity for LaSalle. We left. I wanted to answer his question. I do think that our success is going to depend upon how each community reacts and how they respond, because I don't think God's gonna let this opportunity go. I think it might be one of our last opportunities to save this nation, and I think this kind of that thing where like the beatings will continue until morale improves. I think the shaking is going to continue until the people awaken. So maybe it's going to take us a while to stop this thing in LaSalle. Maybe, but the community in LaSalle has been amazing. They have responded with great faith. They're meeting every Saturday morning for a prayer rally right on the road by the resort. I mean, this is one of the greatest communities that I've ever worked with. I've been beating my head against the wall in Kendall County trying to get stuff done. The churches just turn their back. They won't participate. For 2 to 3 years, we've been trying to get drag shows stopped in Kendall County, and the churches are still taking their kids there to go bowling. It's a bowling alley out there by us. And I said, please, you've got it. There's other bowling alleys. Please, just take them to different places. No, they won't. Finally, Parkview Christian School wrote a very nice email, or had a very nice email to the bowling alley manager, and they said, it's just uncomfortable for us to come. That doesn't align with our values. And the bowling alley said, oh, okay, we'll stop having the drag shows. So all it takes is a little bit of the community to stand up in Christ and say, we're going to draw the line here. It's not going to happen. And we've got Fox River Lutheran congregation in LaSalle. They have been absolutely amazing. They know how to pray, they know spiritual warfare, they know how to donate, they know how to serve, they know how to put out a lunch spread and have a potluck. I've never worked with such support as I have in LaSalle County, and you're seeing the fruits of it. So if the community, I answered your question while you're gone, you're gonna have to listen to the radio show. So if the community shows up and they move forward with Christ in repentance, and they work on restoring the foundations of our nation, we're going to win. We're going to win. And we're going to win anyway. But will you be a part of that restoration? Will you be a part of that restored nation? And will you be the ones to move it forward?
So that being said, the next LaSalle County Board meeting is now on a Monday this month, because they have their meetings the last month of the quarter on Mondays and not on Thursdays. So Monday, I think it's the 14th of September at 1 o'clock, we're asking everybody to show up there, because we're hoping that we will be able to give them this resolution. That being said, is while we want to say no Sharia law, people might be disappointed that that's probably not going to be a word in our resolution. What we are doing is reminding them that we already have a document that states that no Sharia law or any other law can usurp the Constitution. So that's where we're coming from. And, you know, initially people were really upset and pushing back, but then what about the next group that comes in that has a different law attached to their religion, right? And Molly and I disagree probably a little bit on this, like, yes, Islam is a religion, however, when you leave their religion, they will hunt you down and kill you. That to me is a cult.
Yeah, it's
Right.
just a really bad religion.
Yeah, it's a really bad religion. So I call it a cult. And here's one of your biggest comebacks that you can have when somebody calls you racist because of, you know, of going against Muslims, right? So my first question to them is, what race are they? Where do they come from? What country are they from? Are they black, white, brown? They're all of the above, right? So which race am I racist against? The white Muslim? I'm white. So that's my question to everybody is, it's what they're doing is a psyop. And it's to make you be uncomfortable and to call you a racist, to call you Islamophobic. You stand on the faith of God and you say, you know, what race are you? And that right there shuts them down. You're not racist, you're not Islamophobic. It's a psyop to get you to shut up and stop talking about it. And it's worked for a very long time, but we're on to them now, and I'm not going to back down. We need more men in this fight, so I don't know what it's been since COVID with all the women standing up and the men looking at us like we're nuts, right? And now they're starting to see that we weren't crazy about COVID. You know, we see that Fauci was not the guy that he tried to portray himself to be, that we're finding out that these shots weren't what they were supposed to be. And just so you know, all of this stuff is connected. You need to go back and write this down. Go back and look at Agenda 21, which then became Agenda 2030. Are any of you familiar with that? So if you look up Agenda 2030, it's a plan that was put in place by the World Economic Forum and in conjunction with the UN. And the UN has 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which wants to put you in 15-minute cities. They want to lock you down, and you're going to own nothing, and you're going to like it, and you're going to eat bugs. This is all out there for you to see, and it's real. And part of this whole immigration thing, so what we found out from a class that we took is that the majority of the immigrants that came to the southern border during the Biden administration, 97% of them were Muslim. That wasn't an accident, it was done on purpose. And what you're seeing is now the fruits of their labor, right? So we need to start standing up and pushing back, but when you have a whole group like that coming into an area, let's say into Norway, Illinois, and you start to destroy the culture, and you start to destroy the history, people forget their history, and they're not willing to stand up anymore, and you're more willing to become part of a one world government. That's what this entire agenda is about, and that's what COVID was about, that's what the transgenderism is about, all of it. So when you think about abortions by itself, you think about transgenderism by itself, you think about the COVID shots by themselves, it doesn't seem like it's a huge deal, even though it is, but when you put all of it together, it's all a depopulation event, right? So the abortions, the shots are actually targeting the reproductive organs of our young people, and that will allow them not to procreate and have families. And then also with the transgender, you start taking away their sex organs, they can't have children. These people are outproducing us 8.1 kids to our 1.8. This guy, the CEO of this company, said he will commit jihad. Jihad is to kill an area or a group of people. He will commit jihad through the womb and through the merchant. So he's selling off fractional shares and trying to make his own people more rich and making us poor and taking away our land. And you know, these data centers are part of that too, right? The data centers, the solar panel farms. Back in 1971, when the World Economic Forum was created, Henry Kissinger was part of that, and he actually said, whoever controls the food controls the people. So if you take away prime farmland, you can't feed the people, right? So you're taking away lots of prime farmland with these solar panel farms and with these data centers. You guys need to start pushing back against all of those as well. For example, in Coal City, they're putting a data center in there, and I went and looked at the company. It's called Aligned. And Aligned was actually bought out on July 26th by BlackRock. So I asked them if they knew who their new boss was, and they said, yeah, we do. I said, what's his name? And they couldn't really tell me. I was in a group, there were 3 of us there to ask questions. We were invited to this, so it was an informational session. There was like 12 of them there. I said, well, his name's Larry Fink. I said, you know where else Larry Fink sits and what board he sits on? And they're like, well, probably many of them. I said, one in particular. He's co-chair of the World Economic Forum. And I said, are you familiar with the World Economic Forum? Not really. So I started filling them in about the agenda and about what they want to do, and that their former CEO is Klaus Schwab, who wants to make sex with children normal, calls it age gap love, and minor attracted people. The looks on their faces, they were mortified. I said, this is who you're working for. So once you start digging in, you find out who these companies, who are their investors, and you start looking into that stuff, you can roll most of it back up to the World Economic Forum, BlackRock, and Vanguard, and we're not even allowed to know who actually sits on the board of Vanguard, so you don't even know who they're working for most of the time. But most companies roll up to those two companies. Yes, so they have a place in Colfax, Iowa. They're buying up hotels and saying that they're going to use them as hotels. So when you stay at a hotel, you can only stay there for 30 days, but that's not happening. They have people living in these hotels, and they're not good. They're getting calls to the sheriff all the time. But Colfax, Iowa, which is ironically within 25 miles of 3 different military installations. The one in Peoria, Illinois, is within 25 miles of 4 different military installations. The one in Pennsylvania, what time is it? It starts with a W. In Pennsylvania, if you go on to Defend LaSalle, I think we have it on there. But the one in Pennsylvania is, I think, 60 miles from Camp David, and is within 25 miles of 3 Mile Island. They are looking at these places and targeting these places on purpose, I have no doubt. The other interesting thing is that Holiday Inn Resorts actually have all the resorts for sale across the country, and they're all within 25 miles of critical infrastructure. And 3 of the people that sit on the IHG board for Holiday Inn are Muslim. I think this has been a plan in the making for a very long time. These are patient people. They will plan this out, and they're catching us asleep at the wheel. I think they thought they'd come into Little Sheridan, Illinois, and we're a bunch of country bumpkins, and we're not going to know anything. They had no idea what they were going to be up against, because this group is the best group I have ever worked with, like Molly said. And when people tell me they're too busy, I want to tell them to hold my beer, because I hardly sleep. I don't get a lot of free time, but I told them I would help lead this group, but I will do a little bit of digging, but it's hard for me to take on a lot more. But there was one thing that I actually dug on that I think was so God ordained. They had put out a video initially on YouTube, and it was Jamil and his cohorts talking about what they were going to do at the resort and all of their plans, and they're going around the resort and showing how beautiful it is and all of these things, right, and showing their propaganda and their flyers, their original flyers, and talking about all of this. And it was dubbed over in English. And when we started getting onto them and really digging into this and sharing that video, they pulled it and took it down. So nobody could find the video anywhere anymore. And I was like, this has got to be out there somewhere. So I'm digging and I'm looking and I'm trying to find anything I can. I do most of my research on back channels. I'll do my research on X. Now, X makes it very easy to find stuff. Now, back during COVID, it wasn't so easy. But when I went on their website, I'm like, they all have LinkedIn profiles. I'm like, well, I'm going to go on LinkedIn. I never really go on LinkedIn, so I start digging in there. And I'm like, okay, who would have this video? And I'm like, marketing would have this video. So I go to their marketing guy and start looking through. I'm not seeing anything. But when you guys research on social media sites, most of the sauce, most of the information is in the comments. So about the 3rd or 4th post down, I went in the comments and I'm going through, and there was the video on a completely different platform, all in Arabic, 6 different dialects of Arabic, and I downloaded it right away so I had it so it wouldn't get lost again. I sent it to Molly. I'm like, please don't send this to anybody until you download it too, so both of us have it. She and her daughter took about 6 hours to go through that, and they put English subtitles in it. So we have the video on Molly's YouTube channel with English subtitles on it, and I don't think they know that we have it. And we've been sharing it everywhere with people. So we try not to share it too much on social media so they don't see it, but we'll share it and text it to people so people can actually see what they're saying.
But it is on defendlasalle.com, and under media and social media, there's a bunch of articles, and then there's that video. You need to watch that video. It's insane, the plans that they have for that property. And then they try to deny they have the plans for the property, but I think it's 45 minutes long or something. Everything that they want to do, all laid out there. And it's wild. It'll blow your mind.
Yeah, and they have no idea that we have this video, I don't think. And It's awesome, and like I said, I think it was, I don't know, I was, for like 3 hours that night, I was all over the place trying to find this video, and all of a sudden, when I got on their website, I saw the LinkedIn, I'm like, it's gotta be there, right? So, it was just unbelievable that we found it. She's like, where did you find this? Yeah, I'm like, well, this is where I found it, and I actually screen recorded how I found it, so I wouldn't forget to go back to see where I found it, so I have that saved too, and I wanna go back, and I'm sure it's still there. But the other thing that we're doing, Mike Kremsky actually has done this course, and he's a teacher or an instructor for this course, but we're doing a course on the Constitution. It's gonna be an 8-week course, and we titled it, Are We the People, right? So people don't realize that they are the government, and so that's why we titled it that way, and it's going to start on Sunday, September 13th, September 13th, 5 o'clock, it'll go till 6:30, 7 o'clock. It's completely free, and we're meeting at Spirit Farms to do that. Spirit Farms is over in Sheridan, and so we're gonna do that for 8 weeks in a row. We'll be done by November 1st, we're done before the holidays. So we have flyers here for you guys to research that as well.
I have to say, we're also doing a pie by the slice fundraiser. We have a lot of older ladies in our group in Defend LaSalle, and we decided that we need to play to our strengths, and we're having a pie fundraiser. So please show up for the pie, but also, I hate meetings, no offense, and I hate classes, and this is the greatest thing that I have ever done in my life, this 8-week course. This will be when I go to it, it will be the 3rd time that I've seen it. You must come to this. It will change your life.
So with that, you guys have, hopefully we've answered a lot of questions, but yes.
Last question, please. Last question, please. Go right ahead.
What happens what? What happens if you're racist? Well, I don't think most of us are racist is the thing, right? And so that's the biggest thing though when they call you racist is just to ask them what race are they? And nobody can answer it. Then it kind of shuts down the whole conversation right there. Yeah, but yeah, and then just so you guys know, we, again, with this whole thing defending LaSalle and defending this entire land, we're doing it with God. So if you drive out into Sheridan, you're gonna see all kinds of yard signs that say "One Nation Under God," like this one over here. This here is a 4 foot by 4 foot, and that's $30. And then the smaller yard signs are $10, and it comes with the stakes and everything that you need. So, and we also have no Sharia law signs, which are sitting up here in front. So this is the front and the back of that sign. So those are all over the place as well. And then also they have free Bibles over there, which are large print. So if any of you know anybody who needs a Bible, there are free Bibles over there that the Kremskys provide. And then with my work that I do, I think one of my Donald Trump buttons is over here. You have that, Crystal? Crystal's wearing it. So those are $10 each, but that funds all the work that I do. So when I go around the country, and I will actually testify in congressional committee hearings, but that's all really on my own dime. So this kind of helps fund some of the stuff that I'm doing. Also, if you guys, if you don't have the time and you have more treasure, if you want to donate to Defend LaSalle or to my cause, we are taking donations as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, ladies. It's pretty obvious. We got to get them back. There's more. Now, you think I was kidding? Superman and Batman? Huh? These ladies, there's no doubt in my mind, these ladies would cross the Delaware on Christmas morning with no shoes, a sub-zero temperatures, tell King George he's got to go home, and then make it back to serve dinner. I'm glad that they let me be part of all that's going on, and there's a lot. Okay, we got a couple of more guests. Gonna take a couple of minutes. Mr. Dave Shostokis. This guy is part of Trump's election integrity team, and he's gonna tell you, go ahead.
Hello, Glenn. Thank you so much, Glenn. Thank you, Michelle. It's good to see you. I haven't seen you in a long time, and you're doing some just tremendous work in so many fields. You know, I know any number of folks here. I'm only here on a separate thing. I'm not going to. I actually, if anybody wants to know, I did just come back from Detroit, where I was with 300 election lawyers from around the country, including Harmeet Dillon, who's the head of the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. In any event, those lawyers were together for the purpose of looking after these upcoming elections. They've sent me around the country to do a lot of things. This time around, I'm asking these folks, the Department of Justice and Republican National Lawyers, I think they're going to send me a bunch to look after elections here in Illinois this time around. So I'm pretty excited about that. That's not the main reason I'm here. I'm only going to take 2 minutes in that regard. I mostly came by to tell you about my friend, Bob Fioretti, who is running for Attorney General of the state of Illinois. I know many of you from when I ran 4 years ago. I ran for Attorney General myself 4 years ago. And from that standpoint, I didn't run this time because Bob's been a friend for 30 years, and he actually can win because of a unique circumstance in his history that if a Republican can get 30% of the vote in Cook County, they can win statewide. 2 years ago, Bob got 29.2% of the vote is when he was running for state attorney in Cook County. We've known each other for a long, long time. I'll give you just a quick update on a couple of things. Among them is that if you heard me 4 years ago, Bob and I have had a long talk about this. The Attorney General, as far as I'm concerned, is perhaps the singular most important office in the state, because there is no authority for any of the other executive officers to get another lawyer. So if the governor and the attorney general disagree on a particular legal situation, the attorney general's theory wins. The attorney general gets to make all the litigation decisions. I read Judge McGlynn's opinion, and we had a different attorney general, and I was the first deputy assistant attorney general, we would never have appealed Judge McGlynn's decision, and PICA would be over right now. And PICA would be over if we had a different attorney general. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the governor thinks otherwise. And I can tell you, I can safely say that Bob and I agree on Second Amendment issues. I do know Justin Tucker's one of the plaintiffs in the brand new Floyd case. Were we to have the Bob will be. I also know that Bob will be. I also know that myself, and I'm looking forward to doing that again, because there's a whole lot of people that have taken advantage of the people of the state of Illinois, and I know Mr. Fioretti, and I will be working with him to see to it that that doesn't happen anymore. The Attorney General is supposed to be, he's elected by the people and supposed to represent the people, not the government. In which case, in some of these circumstances, like the Sheridan case, the Attorney General could possibly weigh in on behalf of the people to protect the Constitution of the United States in those circumstances. That's how important that office is. A lot of folks know me and my situation on the Constitution. I've got my own stuff. Oh, just this Tuesday, the 25th, in Decatur, there's a group called Restore Our Constitution. And we are showing a video that I made called What Do China, Cuba, and Illinois Have in Common? The fact is that all three of them have constitutions and none of them pay any attention to them. And we're going to be showing that video, and we're going to live stream that. The details will be coming out shortly, but it's going to be live streamed. After the video, Bob and I and Dan Calkins are hosting a panel to discuss that situation. So thanks again. It's good to see my friends in LaSalle. It's good to see Clint. It's good to see Crystal. Good to see Mr. Martin. It's good to see all you guys again. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Dave. I was talking to Dave, he said I could use your help. Okay, I'm in, and I'm not kidding.
Yeah, no, we're gonna do that.
Jim Martyrs in the house. Jim, where you at? Hey, okay.
All right, folks, I got the best deal in the house tonight. So I'm Jim Martin, Republican nominee, U.S. Congress here in LaSalle, the 14th Congressional District, which we have most of LaSalle. Congressman Darren LaHood has the rest of LaSalle down in the Streeter area. But I need your help. I need you to vote for every Republican. I don't care if you don't like them. I don't care if you had a fight with them. I really don't care. I need you to vote for every Republican up and down the ballot. And for that, I'm going to give you a free sign if you buy any of the Defend LaSalle signs. If you take a Bob Fioretto sign, I'm going to give you a free sign. If you take a Darren Bailey and Aaron Delmar sign, I'm going to give you a free sign, okay? So, and I do have, and with that tonight, while supplies last, a free business card with a Slim Jim attached to it, and bumper stickers for your car. And I will stand and fight to defend your Second Amendment alongside John Bach and all the rest of you guys. So get out and vote, grab some signs, get me some votes. Oh, one real quick story. I was at the booth at the Kendall County Fair with the Kendall Grundy Beef Growers Association, and I was working with 4 young ladies in the booth. One was maybe 8 years old, and she had a big personality. And she goes, I'm going to guess everyone's age in this booth. And so she did. I'm 50, by the way. Thank you very much. The other 3 young ladies have to be 23, 21, 19. So I pulled out my business cards, handed each one, I need your vote. And they kind of looked at me and they're like, I'm not registered. Oh, well, that's a problem. We're going to fix that. You need to go down to Debbie Gillette's office, Kendall County Clerk, Yorkville, down by the river. You guys all know where it's at. You live in Kendall County. Get out there and get registered. I saw the 2 guys cooking the beef behind the shack, went after them. Both of those guys were registered. Shout out for the guys. And they voted for me in the primary. So anyway, get out the vote. I need your vote. I need your help getting out the vote.
Thank you very much, Jim.
Well, that ended the about an hour and some minute Gun Saves Life meeting. Very interesting. I went up there as media, and I knew quite a few of the people anyway. And if you ever have a chance, go to them. They have them in it's also Streeter, Illinois. I think it's on the 4th Thursday every month. So go to Gun Save Life, find out where they're going to be at. They do have guest speakers all the time. I've been to several of them. And these two, the speakers today, John Bach, the executive director of Gun Saves Lives, and Michelle Peterson and the other lady, listen to what they say. If you like what you saw tonight, share it with other people, make comments in the section here on YouTube, and, vote red because we are in dire need of this upcoming midterm. And like you heard him say, if you don't like the person, still vote red. I mean, don't vote Democrat just because you don't like the Republican. Because right now, if you watch what the Democrat Socialists of America are doing, they are also tied in with Muslims and Islam. And Islam actually uses the liberals to gain their influence, which has happened already in Europe. Europe is going down the tubes. England's in shambles. And, not only listen to what I say, I do a lot of posts on my personal Facebook group, which is James, and last name's Fraher, Fraher. And I also have it on my Trump Facebook group. And if you're not a member of it, do subscribe. It's a lot of information I put out there. And I'm not backing down on this Islam. And neither should anybody else if you are a true American patriot. Because they are putting it out there what they want to do, how they're going to do it. And it's through infiltrating our government, which they already starting to. Okay. They're not going to vote for a Republican. They're going to vote for their people that they get in there to help their agenda. Spread the word. Us Christians need to be aware of what's going on because we are infidels to them. They want to take over the world. If they take the United States, it's over with because all the Christians, there's a lot of Arab countries that used to be Christian. The Muslims took over. They're in Europe now. If we also lose Texas, which I'm going to have a show Thursday night, so mark your calendar, Thursday night live at 7 p.m. Central, I'm having a show. It would be part 2, Islam Not for America. One guest is going to be Natasha Owens, who lives in Frisco, Texas, and she's a Christian political singer. She's going to be on the show. She sees what's going down in Texas. And then also David Duar, who's in Northern Illinois, he's going to be on the show, and he's going to be talking. Another person that may drop in is Max Solomon. He is an immigrant originally from Nigeria. Okay. He is running for Illinois treasurer. He's a Republican. Him and I talked Saturday night, and we pulled him off the side. And I said, hey, you can have 5 minutes or whatever. He goes, Jim, I can tell you exactly what's going on in 5 minutes. Okay. He's lived there. He knows what's going on. The killing of all the Christians. This is what's going on with Islam. It needs to stop. I pray to God that it does not come to arm citizens. But from all the groups I watch, if you watch the poster, what he says, you go to that poster's name, scroll for that, what he posted, and look at the comments, not just what you see on the original post, because it would tell you what people's thoughts are. So anyway, I'm James Frayer, host of World Events. You can catch me on my Trump Facebook group, which I do a lot of posting on about what's going on. I try to keep people informed because if we're not informed, you're going to get caught, banged over the head. And if you're a woman and it gets a Sharia law, Islam takes over, I mean, you don't want to do what their women are made to do. So anyway, for right now, it's Saturday night on August 22nd. I'm live on World Events from Chillicothe, Illinois. My name again is James Frayer. And all I have to say is God bless everyone. God bless this country. And God bless this world. And good night.